Hey everybody, it's ASIC Eric. Pops is not here yet, so getting a start this morning. Thanks everybody for all your comments on the video, the last couple of videos, Roger as well, talking about the hood here. Roger was suggesting, Mr. Fireman 164, suggesting lowering the hood down when I paint, and then you can lift it up to paint the edges and then put it back down and all that stuff. And I have seen that done, but the problem with this hood for me is it's really hard to open, like really hard to open. And so I could potentially stick my hand under here and try and push it open, but it's like murder on my back to do that. And then if I do that, I don't know how I close it. I asked Roger this morning, I don't know if you have a chance to respond to me, but like how do you close this once you've opened it? There's nothing I can grab onto under here, you know, reach and kind of pull it back down, so I'm not sure. And the other complication is I need to paint this edge here, so I've got to make sure I can get some spray in here. So I was actually thinking of putting the hood kind of down a little bit, so that I could get under there. I don't need to paint this edge here, it's already painted, so it's just more about managing overspray and stuff on it. But that edge I do need to paint because I got screwed up. And then Brooklyn 202, I believe it was, had suggested sanding off all of this red overspray, and they said it looked like it was delaminating. I don't see any evidence of that, so I'm not quite sure what that is. You can see the shiny edge here underneath. That could be sealer or something else, I don't know. But there's no edge here. You know, we checked that pretty carefully when we wet it down and everything, make sure there was no edge. And we sanded this really hard here. I mean, we could get all this off, obviously, but it's a lot of work to get all that overspray off. So do you think that's necessary, people? And then that got me thinking about Tom Noble and the issue he had with I think it was the base coat, you know, that caused it to lift. That's another possibility that I hadn't been thinking about. So the base coat is waterborne, so I'm not worried about that. But the sealer is a urethane-based sealer. So potentially when I put the sealer on here, that could cause some lifting on that edge right there, which I could fix by putting some epoxy down first. But when I spray my epoxy, it comes out really chunky. So I'm kind of hesitant to do that because I know I'll get overspray all over everything and it'll look like butt. Maybe if I take my detail gun or something, just try and mist it on there real gently and try and keep the overspray from getting everywhere. Maybe I can manage that. So basically the fenders, valence, and the top of the quarter panels back here are the only place we have that problem. Everywhere else is pretty much fine. There was some overspray around the edges here. We got most of that off. There's a little bit left here and there, but mostly gone. So that is something to consider. Let me know what you guys think about that. If that's something I need to concern myself with or not. We can obviously do more sanding if we need to do more sanding, but all right. And then the ending of the last video, I had put the foam tape up on this edge here and I said I was going to remove it, which I did. But what I'm thinking now, I think you're supposed to put that stuff on the moving panel, but what I'm going to do is stick it down in here below the soft edge tape. Just again to keep overspray from getting in here as much as possible. This is all protected, as you can see. So I don't need the soft edge tape to do anything here. I already have the smooth transition tape. So the foam tape is just to try and keep overspray out. Yeah. And then I noticed when I did the video, you saw that this thing got kind of chewed up when I tried to put the foam tape in there. This one got completely destroyed on this edge here. So I've stuck this here to remind myself that I have to redo that tape edge right there, which is kind of hard because the bottom line is already down. So I need to stick another one under that, which would be a little tricky. Okay, so today, finish masking this stuff. I'm almost done under the hood here. I just have to finish up these edges here to protect the sides of the top of the fenders here as much as possible. I don't really have a good answer for how to protect those little corners up in there. One thought we had was just taking some of that filter material we have and just kind of jam it up in there, hope it'll catch something. This side, I think I just tucked some paper up in there. So I know at the top of the fender there's a little opening in there where overspray can get in here. So I can't, it's really hard to protect. But, you know, hopefully worst case scenario, that just means those little corners get some overspray in them, and you know, maybe that's not the end of the world. You can't really see anyway. Okay, so the other thing that came up, sorry, I forget who made the comment, about using plastic. This is just sort of general purpose Home Depot painter's plastic. Probably not suitable for spray painting. So I have this stuff in here for overspray protection, but the idea is not to paint on this stuff. So everywhere you see this, theoretically paint is not supposed to get. So like under here, this is not supposed to be here. There's not supposed to be any paint in here. As we've mentioned, this is all going to be protected here. I'm going to cover, backmask this, so there's no paint getting in here. This front edge, this was just to protect the core support. When I'm done, I got to Scotch-Brite this stuff in here. When that's done, I'm going to put paper behind all of this stuff. So you're not going to be able to see any of that stuff when that's ready. And again, that becomes the problem for how do I lift the hood, right? Because this is all masked up in here. And then we may or may not use plastic for here, or we may use paper. I haven't decided yet. Probably use the plastic, but that's the, where is that stuff? Don't know where it is. Oh, there it is. That's the actual 3M painter's plastic stuff. I got some smart stuff from Finish Master. That is approved for spray painting and stuff, so that doesn't flake off as long as you use it properly. So we'll probably use that for the windows and doors and everything, because remember we have to mask all the way down to the bottom here because the doors are opening and closing. Another question came up. Again, I'm sorry, I can't keep track of all the comments. There's been a lot of them, of what the Seadell masking technique was. And hopefully you can see this. So what we did is, before we put the fenders on, I took some paper and taped it to the inside of the door here along this edge. So I taped it to the edge of the door, and then here, you can, that's a good shot right there. You can see, so I kind of backmasked the door here and stuck the paper to the door. So this piece of paper here runs up, and under the fender, there's that, that seal that goes between the fender and the cowl. So I stuck the paper up inside there. So this whole area inside here, below this, inside there, you can see all the way up in here. That's all paper way up in there. So there's not supposed to be any overspray getting in there. And then we're going to mask this stuff off today, so there's no overspray getting in here. And we're painting down to this line right here. I'm going to put a piece of smooth transition tape here. I wanted to run this all the way up to the end, so there's no line right there, but I'm kind of nervous I'm going to be able to get enough paint up in there, and plus this paper's flopping around in there, and that'll mess up any paint that I try to do in there. So we're going to go up to this edge right here. And so all of this will be covered basically, so there's no overspray getting in here. And then when the car is done, hopefully I can reach in here, grab all this paper and pull it out. Hopefully. And we do have to paint these guys, so I can't completely cover everything. So this area here, we'll have to put something in there to cover that. The doors then, I have to mask the very bottom because that's already painted, as you can see. So we'll go all the way down to the bottom edge there, mask that off, and then it's up to this edge right here. So again, we'll put some soft edge right here. There's an actual panel line right there, so I don't need a soft edge, but right at that bottom I do. And then these guys are painted all the way to the outside edge here, so just scuff that up, and then the paint goes all the way around the corner here, so there's no line there. And then, so that anyway, so Wendell's technique, Seadell, is you're painting all of this at once, so there's no lines anywhere here. I went back and forth on this. Originally, I was going to paint all these jams first, but that was before I knew about that smooth transition tape, and I didn't really know how to do this corner without getting sealer in there and stuff. So I just opted not to do that instead. And this will work fine, right? It'll be a really nice smooth edge here, and I only have one place where there's a transition right there, which would have been the transition I would have had over here everywhere. So now I just have in that one little spot. Let's see. One other thing, Roger was mentioning painting parts off the car, like the hood. You know, I could paint the hood off the car to avoid all these problems. And there's two issues. One is metallics, all the metallics lining up properly. And as Roger pointed out properly, if this thing's laying down flat, you know, and you spray paint it the same way you spray the rest of the car, then the metallics will, shouldn't be an issue. But the second bigger issue for me is the mid coat. Like every time you spray the mid coat, it's a transparent color, right? So depending on your speed, depending on your overlap, humidity, everything can affect the intensity of that mid coat. And as I said to Roger, every part that I've painted separately has ended up being a different color. So none of them match, basically. I've covered a lot of stuff up here so you can't see. But this corner here is definitely not as dark as some of the newer stuff I've painted. So there's going to be a line right there, and you'll be able to see it when it's done, I'm sure. These hinges are darker than this material here. I think you can see that in the video, that those didn't come out the same color. When I put that filler panel in here, you can see really clearly that they're two different colors. So this was one of the first things we painted, and I didn't have my scale working, so I was guessing on how much mid-coat tinter to put in there, so I think I just totally flubbed that. So this is not dark enough, and the later stuff is darker. So I don't know if this will show, it might be the same thing here, the hinges and the trunk. Anyway, so the problem with that is if I try to paint the hood off the car, like the chances of me getting those two colors to match are zero. A pro could do it with some degree of success, certainly better than I could try. So I'm not going to try that for these big panels. The little parts like the mirrors and stuff, I didn't really have a choice because you kind of have to paint them off the car. So when all is said and done, we'll stick it all together and we'll see how things work. And as I've said to Pops all along, if I get something that's too light, that's okay, because I can, when I do the flow coat or something later, I can always add more mid coat to it to darken it up. If it's too dark, I'm out of luck, right? The only way to fix that is to sand it off and repaint it. So thus far, as I've been going and getting better with my technique and everything else, it's been getting darker, not lighter. So I can fix all this stuff later if I feel like it. Yeah, the firewall's the same thing. It's not dark enough, but you can't really notice it as much. So anyway, that's a lot of rambling. So plan for today, again, finish up the masking. The wet sanding's almost done. We just have to do that jam over there. The rockers, I'm still on the fence on this one. This line right here, this body line down, is going to be black, but we can't paint that right now. Because of the mid coat again, I can't put black down and then put a red mid coat on top of it. Well, I mean I could, but I don't want to do that. So I was going to paint all of this red and then come back and paint it black later, but then I got to sand all this down and everything. So again, I think what I'm going to do is put that smooth transition tape on the edge here, and then just mask all this off so that I don't end up having to paint everything twice. If that's the case, then we don't have to sand that today. That means the car's done. Except, sorry, one other thing. That bottom tail panel right there, that's going to be red, and that's it. Everything else is black. So we're almost done. So Pops will be able to wrap that up pretty quick, the jam. Then I'm going to do the bottom part. I don't make him get under the car and do stuff like that. And as I said, the masking on the hood is the worst part. Everything else should be much simpler. So if we get all that done today, then we have to clean the garage. And if that gets done today, then we're ready to paint tomorrow. Fingers crossed, everybody out there, cross your fingers for me. Although by the time you watch this video, the damage will already be done. Anyway, yeah. So hopefully tomorrow we're painting. So please, anybody, if you see anything in the process here today or the last two videos that's like red flag, let me know please before I paint, because of course then it's too late. The biggest scary thing I can think of right now is this, if I need to do anything on this edge or not. All right, I'm gonna get to work and Pops will be here in another half an hour or so. Really loving this smooth transition tape. Found another use for it here. So I want to backmask this guy so I can shoot some paint in here, but I don't want the tape all the way up to that edge because it'll, you know, everything will kind of accumulate on that edge there. But so I put some smooth transition tape under it, and I'll backmask on top of that, and hopefully that'll keep the paint from pooling down there in the bottom because it's got a little bit of room to spill out from the bottom. We shall see. Alright, for anybody out there that doesn't know what a backmask is, so the tape is stuck to the underside of this panel here, so we got sticky side up. So now I can lay a piece of paper here and keep the overspray from getting down inside here, which I will do now. So just lay a piece of paper in there, just run your finger along the back. All the way around. Like so. So let's cut this part off. There you go. Now if you want an extra layer of protection, you run a piece of tape along the top here to make sure it's sealed down good. Alright, there we go. I know this came up in the last video, and I was thinking about it myself, that a lot of this is hopefully overkill, right? Ordinarily, if you were painting something like this, you would just you know, soft edge these edges, put the foam tape in and call it a day, and then you won't get very much overspray under the hood if you do it right. But I'm not assuming I can do it right, first of all. And second of all, this is all finished in here, and some of this stuff would be really hard to retouch, like these fender wells. Because they're satin black, you can't really retouch satin black. So I'm going above and beyond to try and make sure everything's protected here, just so that I don't end up with a bunch of overspray. And I might anyway. Yeah, even given all of this. But like I said, hopefully this is all overkill and it won't matter. Look what the cat dragged in.
Gloves and all.
Yes, he's got his gloves on. I'm always reminding Pops to put his gloves on, but he never does. And then he puts his elbow on. Come on! Anyway, in answer to a lot of people's questions about gloves and whatever, we generally have gloves on when we're doing body work and sanding and all that stuff. The masking and stuff, I just can't, right? Because the tape sticks to the gloves and everything, so gloves come off when I do this stuff. Pops historically has been wearing his gloves, but he's been kind of lax lately. But as we said, there's tons of spots on the car. Like right here, you see a big grease spot from somebody's elbow or something. So there's lots and lots of greasy spots all over this car that we have to get off. So the little fingerprints that we have here and there have to come off as part of as everything else. So I'm less concerned about, let me look at that. All right. Fingerprints and stuff on the car now because we have to clean it so thoroughly before paint anyway. All right, anyway, enough of that. I think this is done here forward, at least the inside. So we've got, I put some backmasking tape here. We got this ready here, so we're going to drape the whole car in plastic. This is done in here. I put the foam tape down inside this edge here. This is all ready to go. I kind of went along and mashed this down to make sure it's not touching anywhere. Yeah. So from the top down here, I think we're done. I still have to do the front edge here and then inside the wheel wells. But that's it. You got your gloves on? Why don't you close the hood, or at least try. Actually, no, don't do that. I gotta wax and grease remove all this first. Then we'll close the hood.
All right.
Oh, and as we were discussing this, I think Pops and I decided what we're gonna do is we're gonna just epoxy over these edges here, just to be safe. So what we're gonna do is tomorrow, whenever we paint, we're gonna cover the whole car in plastic. And then, you know, we would be just leaving the windows and stuff in plastic. But before we cut all the plastic away, we'll just cut off these areas here where the red is showing, put the epoxy down, then take all the plastic off, and then sand any spot, you know, we have any epoxy overspray and stuff we need to deal with. Then we'll put the sealer on, and then we should be golden. So that'll work guaranteed. And then I don't have to concern myself with this. As long as there's no delaminations or anything in this paintings, and I don't see any. Give you a close up here. If anybody sees anything. you don't like. So there's no edge there. It all looks fine to me. I don't see anything that looks suspect here. But let me know what you guys think. Okay. So we're just about ready to close the hood down. I found some scratches in this corner here that I'm cleaning up right now, and then I'll shut her down. All right, well, try as we might, we didn't manage to finish this up today. So it's about 4 o'clock. There's no way we're gonna get this thing done and the garage done today. So we've already pushed painting off by a day. So painting will be Friday, hopefully. I'll show you what I did get done today. So Pop's finished all the wet sanding everywhere. That's all done. We got the front of the car masked up here. You can see hood's all done. I got this prepped for plastic. So as I think I said earlier in the video, we're going to drape the whole car with plastic, the painter's plastic, and then just cut out the areas that we're going to keep the plastic on, which is the windows, this whole inside here, so front and rear windows. Put these pieces of tape here to give some rigidity to the plastic so it doesn't flop around too much. What else? The trunk here, so I covered this guy in paper and I just taped it up to this edge right here, and scuffed the outside edges here so I can get a little bit of paint there, and there shouldn't really be much going on there. And then here we did the same trick with the smooth transition tape. Left my little flap there to grab to pull out the first layer, and we're going to take the plastic when we run it over the car, and I'm going to run it under here. So we'll pull it through the hinge area here and then wrap it around and cover all this with plastic. We are not painting this part of the car. As I said before, this is black, so we'll cover all this in plastic back here. There's just that little piece at the bottom there that's going to get painted red. So tomorrow, there's just a little bit of masking left to do on the top of the car. Then we'll push the car, we'll clean up the garage floor first, push the car to where we want it, get it up on jack stands, take the wheels off so that I can get in there and mask everything, cover all that stuff up. There's some stuff I have to do under the car to mask, namely around this front valence here. And then that's it. So hopefully just, I would say a couple more hours, which means like 6 more hours of masking, because I can never get that right for some reason. And then clean the garage. And as I said before, we're gonna use the painter's tape, painter's plastic, and just cover all the walls and the ceiling and everything with it. I'm gonna crack this door right here. This goes under the house, so the air compressor can get some air. And then all of this area here, this is the air inlet here. So there'll be a plastic wall along here covering all of this. So this is all behind plastic. So this is on the other side of the plastic. And there's fresh air for the compressor there. We're gonna cover all of this up. All of this, all these surfaces are gonna be covered in plastic basically. And up here, whole 9 yards. So we're gonna unplug the garage doors so they can't open. And then seal all of this stuff off. That's going to take a little while, but hopefully we can get all that done tomorrow. And then Friday, paint. Bob says he likes the lines on the windshield there. It makes it look like a race car. Makes it go faster. All right, so yeah, so apologies to everyone that got all you excited for painting tomorrow, and we're going to have to wait one more day. I'm just not as fast at this masking as the pros are. Takes a lot longer than I always, no matter how much time I think I need, it's like twice as long as that. So yeah. Oh, sorry, the other thing we did, Pops went around the car, looked for any little dark spots where there was guide code or paint or something, and that's all these little blue spots you see is where he found those, so we filled those in. Excuse me, sanded them down. This one needs some more work right here. But there weren't that many, surprisingly. There's only like 10 of those little spots across the whole car that he found, so that's pretty good. So our body work stuff, thus far it looks really good. We keep seeing stuff like this, like, but it's just dirt. Yeah, okay. That's enough rambling. So once again, if anyone has any thoughts on what you see, let me know. Hopefully I went over enough detail in the masking that I did here to answer people's questions about how I did the masking. It should go without saying, I am not a painting professional. This is the first car I've ever painted in my life. So everything you see here was learned on YouTube pretty much. So take it all with a grain of salt. And use your best judgment on what you see here. Do your own research. Find out the best way to do things. And don't just use what I say, because I don't know what I'm talking about 3/4 of the time. All right, that's going to do it. We'll catch you guys tomorrow. And then keep your fingers crossed again that we get this dog painted on Friday. Adios.